for 6 months and you can't reopen, you've lost your ability to have music essentially forever until the zoning changes. And I think that's something we've worked on. I've actually talked to members of the planning commission a little bit, and they understand. They also said that's going to take some figuring out to do that.
And I was going to just sort of, I guess, talk a little bit about talking to the city council. Something like that where maybe the real specifics of it are not yet sort of hashed out or not clear in every case. It's still absolutely worth telling them that you think it's important, because it is important and they need to know that. And there's sometimes a fine line between sort of something like that, which is not super specific, and then just sort of devolving into unuseful stuff that's way too general or sort of ranty. I guess maybe when in doubt, tell city council what you think and how you feel. Will?
Could you mention briefly what the timeline is here? Over what period of time is the city council being decided?
So the timeline is
There is none.
right. The timeline is unknown, but everything that I've heard says it will probably be done or voted on before May, or essentially before. And this is totally speculation, but the presidency of the city council changes in May. If the current president, who is Stacey Head, has an opportunity to pass this under her watch and has an accomplishment. If it doesn't, it goes to the next council member, Jason Williams, who could then claim, I passed the CZO under my watch. And if it's good, that's an asset to whoever it is. So my understanding is probably before May, but who knows? As we know, things pop up suddenly sometimes. I think this is one I would agree with the Riverfront Alliance, is like, hey, if it pops up all of a sudden, right, that's clearly wrong, right? And that's sort of one of their issues as well. So I think timeline-wise, stay vigilant, is I guess the thing I can say.
And the way that affects, I guess, comments is, it doesn't need to be that everybody's comments get in by this week. But I would say having all of the voices in this room represented in the city council people's answering machines and email inboxes between now and May is incredibly important. So,
Do you have any council allies on those 2 points?
council allies on those 2 points. That's a great question. You mean sort of specifically who to
Specifically who?
who to
I
ask?
mean, like, Stacey Head is not going to be around.
Anyone but Stacey Head?
Like Nadine Red.
I would actually say just email all of the council members, because regardless of how they feel or how much of an ally they may or may not be, I think it's really important for all of them to
know that they're-
hear everybody's thoughts.
And I think
so.
One of the guys that really knows this game recently said to me in the last 48 hours, I can't remember which day, when we talked about public opinion, he said there's only 4 people that count. Right? We'd rather worry about 4 people, the majority of council. Right? The rest of them are sound.
And I think the 3 people that you can have the most influence on might be the 2 council members at large and your council member, right? Because those are the 3 that directly you vote for. And so I had Dave.
My name is David Freeman, General Manager of WWOZ, and my staff asked me to let you know that this meeting was kind of short notice, but if you give us enough advance notice, we'll be glad to give you a lot more notice.
That'll be good. I think we're going to do another one on the 4th of March, so we'll
I know, right?
yeah, definitely talk before that, yeah.
So just stay in touch with the staff or, email me or something.
I will. We just felt like we needed to kick this off and do this because the longer we wait to start this process with a group, then the harder it is to continue, especially with Mardi Gras coming.
Exactly.
We need to get ahead of Mardi Gras, right?
Exactly.
But absolutely, thank you. And I think, I just want to say our last, if people have any kind of closing questions, I think the last thing we can really work on here is, if people want to work on getting music back on Rampart Street, I think is something that we could actually push for and do it. And it would be, what would be great about this is we've had a lot of battles that are reacting to what other people have put in front of us. It would be great to have something we can actually proactively do. And I think this is something that we can actually proactively do and push to bring music back down Rampart Street and build a lot of support there as well. Because again, no one here is trying to create, chaos and pandemonium and have, music as loud as you want. People are just pushing to get back, and to bring back, music as it was, right? And so people will enjoy it. It's not an us versus them. It's like, let's just do what's right. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
My name is Charlotte Jones. I work with Playville Rolla. It's actually a kids group, but we involve preservation and culture and music and try to work kind of deal. How realistic could it be to introduce to city council some kind of like historic use clause? So say a building on Rampart Street, even if it was 100 years ago, did provide live entertainment, if you can provide historical proof, that's one way through preservation technically to carry on traditions and to maybe keep the neighborhood venues around without it having to be running for 50 years straight.
Right, and I think that's very impossible, it's just.
I know, I mean,
It's easier,
obviously it needs to be
right.
much more intricate or, detailed, but.
It can be done, but it has to be done property by property, and then you have to have the owner. And that's part of the problem.
Okay.
It is 7:30.
Oh, it is 7:30.
You said we would end at 7:30, and I guess if there's anything else super pressing that or questions that people have, or sort of follow-up steps or what have you, I want to know. I'll stick around here for a little while for sure.
And so we are going to put out, I hope everyone has signed in, we're going to send out emails to everyone that sort of, a little bit of a summary that will have documents that we put out are going to continue, and then to have a follow-up, because the key is we need to start contacting council and people now, because it's been ongoing, and council members right now are deciding what changes they want to make and introducing the CZO. It's not going to, people aren't going to start putting them out in the end of April. They're already drafting them, and they've asked us literally, what do you want to see? We need to know. So like, they need to know whether they want to introduce it or not, but they need something. So we need to start, even just saying, like, even if you say I support, expanding live music in New Orleans until we have something more specific to send, start sending that in. I support music on Rampart Street. I support, music in restaurants, so that they understand there is, we have, and I'm biased, but I feel like we have, the vast majority of the city in the world would like to see what we want to see, right? And so we really have the power of numbers, we just don't use it. So.
Ethan, can you just, at the end of someplace on the website, let us click on maybe, pick 5 things we suggested today?
Yeah.
Delete live from the ordinance. I mean, just pick 5 or 6 and let us click on that, and you can see our preferences. That way we don't have to rewrite it.
Yeah.
You can just write it for us and let us go with clicks. So maybe you get 60 clicks, 30 clicks, 10 clicks, and you'll know what we're thinking.
Yeah, and I'll pay that, Ryan. So I will push it over to Ryan. And I think the other thing I want to put really quickly is, we have a meeting in April, but also the way our organization works is everyone is welcome to participate at all times, right? So we have a planning and facilitation committee, so anyone is welcome to join and work on these issues and continue. We have a board which deals with the institutional stuff, but the planning and facilitation of MaCCNO is open to literally everyone to come in and be a part of it and work on those issues. And so we're gonna start having those meetings regularly and post them, and everyone is welcome to come and be a part of that and move this forward. The more people, it might get a little bit, unwieldy, but it's better because the more people, the more power we have to move things forward.
And if anybody wants the t-shirts or the membership cards from MaCCNO, we're selling those, and the stickers are free. So have a sticker.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. It was great to see you.
Got one thing before we go.
Oh,
Since this whole thing is about culture and music and zoning and ordinances and all this stuff, let's try to get a fine tonight, and we're gonna do shallow water old mama before we do shallow water old mama, really that money when we move the road. Shallow water old mama, moving down and let's go. Shallow water old mama, ain't one thing to make hey. Shallow water old mama, got to do today, what you think? Shallow water old mama, tell her what you got, where I'm looking. Shallow water old mama, I'm like a queen, she's dressed in black. The Moscow Russian ain't going back. She got that queen, she dressed in white. Man, this year from my life. Pray that morning you play for real. Yellow poker hunters, and that's the deal. Golden feathers, the place to be. I wanna be a chief, gotta be like me. All the 4 stitches across my chest. You can tell I'm a hunter by the way I dress. Early that morning I'm gonna sow. Got a mama named Iris, stepdaddy named Joe.
Our son's project, gathering stories from many kids. Oh, wonderful.
Take out what I don't like and put in what has already been passed.